It's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and I am back for another live video. I just finished baking my cookies. So there's a few things that I want to share with you guys before I actually start decorating these. I hope that you guys saw my community post where I let you know what I was doing today so that you could get your own things ready, and hopefully you are able to pipe with me and decorate the cookies with me, and I can help you troubleshoot on the spot. So if you have an issue while you're decorating your cookie, then you're gonna be able to ask me questions and say, what's wrong with my cookie? Why is it not turning out? And I will be able to help you with that. So before I actually start, hi Erica. Before I actually start going into this, I'm just letting those cookies cool. I wanted to give you guys a huge thank you. Obviously, if you're joining my live, then hopefully you've viewed my videos before. Hi, Laura. And I want to say I finally met my eligibility requirements for becoming monetized on YouTube, which for those of you who maybe don't know what that is, that's 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers within the last 365 days. So, and I was able to do that within 7 months, and I really want to thank you guys for actually, contributing to that, because I can't do any of this without you guys. So it's really awesome that I'm gonna be able to start hopefully generating a little bit of income from this so that not everything is coming out of pocket, and I can do more things for you guys as well on this channel. So thank you so much. If you want to get started decorating cookies with me, thank you, Laura. The things that I'm going to need are, you're going to need, because I have them, you're going to need royal icing. And if you want to see my recipe for that, they're on lots of my cookie decorating videos. Of course, I don't want you to click off right now. So the recipe for my royal icing is 1 cup of icing sugar with 1 tablespoon of meringue powder. And I highly recommend meringue powder over actual egg whites. You can use actual egg whites as well, and that will work for you. I just find it a lot easier to control when I use meringue powder. And then you're gonna want to have some warm water on hand. I always use warm water when making my royal icing, and make sure that you whip it up. If you try to whip it by hand, you can do it, but your frosting will never get as light and airy as it needs to be for putting on your cookies. The other thing that you're going to need is a piping bag. Hopefully you have a tipless piping bag so that you can avoid all of that tip usage. If you don't have a tipless piping bag, regular piping bag will do. I always like using a number 2 tip. The number 3 tip is a little bit too wide, and the number 1 tip is a little bit too small. So number 2 tip is probably the best one to use for today's tutorial. And I am going to get into this now, and hopefully you have cookies that you've already baked. Now, if you don't have cookies, but you want to practice these piping techniques, you can totally do that too. Just grab a piece of parchment paper and then you can work on it. And actually what you can do is you can take that whole transfer that you're going to put onto the parchment paper, let it dry, and then once you've actually baked the cookie, you can take that transfer once it's fully dried and put it onto your cookie. So it's not a waste. And if you weren't quite ready, that's okay. So I think I'm going to be doing, 3 different types of Masquerade cookies this week. So today though, I'm going to be doing a kind of a lace version of a Masquerade cookie. So I'm just going to pull that off right now, and then we will get started. And I made sure today to have a second device. So if you want to ask me questions, this main camera here is going to be focusing on what I'm doing, and I will be able to see your questions at the same time. So hopefully I can figure out how to access this. It's so weird, I can watch my live at the same time. So I will do that. Okay. Oh no. This is actually my child's tablet, and obviously hers is on restricted mode, so I don't know if I'll be able to see it, but it's okay because my camera's a lot closer to me now than it was the other day, so hopefully I will be able to view your comments and questions at the same time. So I'm going to move the camera down so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Let's do this here. So here are my cookies. And I'm going to save these two for other tutorials. I'm just going to take them. Now I did hand cut all of these. I freehand cut all of them. The only thing I made sure to do was I made sure that these I had a cutter for. So all I did was I used one of these pedal cutters that I normally use for flowers, and then I just used them to cut that out. I think if you're doing, you know, hand cutting, freehand cutting, it's totally fine to do without a stencil of any sort, but to keep the eye area really perfect is really going to help you. Sorry, I'm just gonna go grab my my little pick. So as you can see here, I usually like to keep this fairly covered, and then I have it here. Now this I would say is actually a little bit thick for pipe and flood consistency. You'll notice when I lift it up like this and I let it drop back down, it doesn't really flood back down into itself that quickly. So because we're only doing one cookie right now, I am going to do this. Now, if you were doing multiple cookies at once, obviously I would say do it to the whole batch, not just a little bit of icing. The reason that I'm keeping this other stuff a little bit thicker is because we're going to pipe on details later. So I want to be sure that it's going to be quite thick. So taking that icing sugar, oh, and always make sure to cover your royal icing. I'm going to add just a bit of water here. You always want to add a little bit at a time because you don't want to be too far gone with it. So there, my icing consistency is still not quite going back into itself super quickly, but I think that's going to be good for this. Here I have my tipless piping bag, and these are by the Cake Mod. The store that I purchased these from, they actually don't sell any other type of piping bags that are tipless. So I'm not an expert on how well the other ones fare, but the ones by the Cake Mama are great. I believe she is a local company, I want to say, so she's from Canada. Sorry, I was just checking the chat there. And I'm going to cut off a small tip. Somebody actually asked me how to make sure that it doesn't ribbon when you do it. So I cut off a small section first. And then what I do is I don't leave it flat like this. I fold it the other way as well so that it stays rounded. And if you don't necessarily want to watch through this whole live because it's going to be a bit long, I will have a version if you prefer quick videos. I will have that as well where it's going to be a lot cleaner. Now in this particular one I am going over the lace masquerade look. So I won't be redoing that, but I will be doing other masquerade concepts in the week. I do like Halloween, but I feel like there's so many videos where they do, you know, the typical pumpkins and Frankensteins and candy corn, and so I just feel like there's so much of that, but I haven't seen a lot of this, so that's why I'm doing that. Okay, so I outlined those areas. Now I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna fill it in. And this is for that puffy icing look. If you like it, this is what you have to do in order to do it. And here is the beauty on having a tipless bag. See, I've got a clog. I can just unclog it right away. I don't have to take any tips out. Don't have to wash anything. All I did was squeeze it out. Then I want to fill in those areas, making sure everything is really even. You might notice that sometimes you see depressions in people's cookies, and that happens because they haven't filled everything in properly, and so that it's uneven. Okay, now, because as you can see, I've made the proper icing consistency, so I don't really need to do too much with this. We are going to be putting on a lot of detail on here, so you really don't need to worry about things being perfect. There we go. Now, I want to do this section afterwards because if I fill it in now, what's going to happen is that this part is kind of going to depress into this part and it's just going to look like all one piece, and I want them to look quite separate. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to take this and put this into my oven at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. If you don't have an oven, you can use a dehydrator on that same setting. So while that is in the oven, do you guys have any questions for me that you would like to ask, that you've been wondering? Let's see here. Before, if you guys want to ask questions, you can go do that. I'm going to show you some of the things that we're going to be using. Today, I'm going to be using some of these pearls. These are awesome edible pearls that are going to look really, really beautiful. We're kind of going for like a vintage glam vibe. That's what I'm going to be using. I may also incorporate some gold. We'll see how I feel. And then I'm to maybe paint some things gold too. I kind of want to keep it all white, almost a little bit bridal. And then I pipe on royal icing designs on there, or I paint them. And for that, you do want to make sure that you're using really, really thick piping icing. Because the macaron is a little bit more puffy, it doesn't always bake super. I make sure to put the piping designs on before I bake them, but that's a lot trickier because what you're doing is you're creating batters in different colors. And then those batter colors all kind of get piped onto one another, and that's how you get the piping done. It really depends, not necessarily done in royal icing. So it just depends on how you want to do it. Just gonna take a quick check on those cookies, on that cookie, I should say. Okay, and even in that quick short time, it's already set. And I want to show you this because I spent many times waiting for my cookies to dry overnight. So as you can see, that literally happened in less than 5 minutes. Gonna flip you guys over again. So as you can see here, it's actually set. You're no longer looking at something shiny. It's fairly opaque. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to fill up with the rest of this. Now, if I want the lines here to be differentiated as well, I need to make sure that I pipe it in sections. So I'm going to pipe on the outer two first. And I do let it dry just a slight bit to avoid any flooding over before I fill it in. But just, it's really quick and it's really slight. But I just find sometimes my piping icing isn't super correct in texture, then it will flood over. And I really hate it when things flood over. I also find different meringue powders react differently. Like this particular brand I buy is actually something that I buy in bulk from a particular company, and it does get clogged a little bit more easily than other brands that I've used in past. I mean, I like it because I can get it for cheaper, which is why I continue to use it, and it's really not that big. I really suggest the Wilton meringue powder. Because I find that the meringue powder is quite fine, so it doesn't get clogged as easily. Okay, and I want, like I said, I want this one to not mesh into the other two, so I'm going to pop that back into the oven again. Now, normally you'd be doing a lot more cookies than this, so then sometimes after you're done your whole tray of cookies, when you go back to the first cookie, it's already relatively dry. And I think looking at that, I might want to actually use some sanding sugar for that center part. So I think I'm going to use my opal sanding sugar here. It's still within the vein of white, but it has kind of like silvery notes. And what I love about this is it just changes color as well when you look at it in different lights. I'm just going to clean off the tip of this. Now, some of you have asked me what this is, and basically you really don't need one. I would use them for the one time and then I would throw them out. So this obviously helps mental, and you can just really easily lift that off. I will show you how. So I'm just going to take that and really easily clean it off. Let's check on those cookies in the oven. And already that opaque color is starting to go away, so that's great. Just to save on time here, I think I am going to pull it out now. Now, normally I would keep it in there for maybe a minute longer, but it looks like it's not going to mesh together. Because what you really want is you want to get rid of that shine. Once that shine is gone, then you know that it's okay. Sorry guys, hope you can still see me. I had a little bit of a connection issue there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this bowl here. I actually purchased these bowls. Just kind of pour them right back in, and I got these for $1 or less each. So Laura, do you run your own bakery? Or are you more of a hobby baker? Or anybody else in the chat? Are you more of a hobby baker? Or do you run your own thing? Oh, that's fantastic. Yes, macarons are super in right now for sure. I'm so sorry, guys. I've been having trouble with my connection today. Not really sure what's going on. I'm really, really sorry, guys. I'm just going to check my connection quickly. Okay, I'm just gonna brush off all the excess sanding sugar here. And you do want to make sure you use sanding sugar for this because it never gives you that nice coating if you don't. If you use like a rock sugar, then it's very bumpy. You don't need to your sugar when you want that even coating. Okay, now let's get to piping here. So I'm going to start around, I'm just going to do this very, very free. I'm going to start maybe with this section here. I'm really sorry, guys, if you're still hanging on to this live. Thank you. I'm not really sure why this connection problem is happening. I don't know when it cut out, so hopefully you, if you didn't get to see it on the last one, you're going to see it here again how I do this. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing with the cross sections. And we're going to add on our little pearl. Perfect. No, Laura, it's mine. I don't know, something is going in and out for some reason, so really, really sorry. The next thing I'm going to do here, I just feel like it's really calling for this on this particular is I'm going to outline this portion. And I'm going to brush it just a slight bit. So I'm going to take this brush, dip it in a little bit of water, just very light. I'm going to brush this. getting overbrushed there, so I need to do it again. And see, that's the thing. Just do it again. If it didn't work out that first time, just do it again. And there's going to be detailing going over this. I really want this kind of texture on the outside here. It was smaller, but this is the one I grabbed, so I'm sticking with it. Okay, so just kind of let that texturization, almost like feathers. And then you could just watch later if you're not. My apologies.